Show me all the blueprints. It's a huge success.
I came across a really, really interesting business opportunity.
Beyond the Blueprints. Hello, it's Cailey Heaps. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprints. Today we're speaking with Tania Bortolotto, who's a brilliant architect and based in the city of Toronto. We talk about what inspires her. We talk about some of her favorite projects, including Bezier House, where I'm sitting right now. We talk about her family and travel, and the list goes on. Please take a listen or look and let us know what you think. Today we have Tania Bortolotto, who is an exceptional architect in the city of Toronto, but I don't want to limit you just to the city of Toronto. That's just where you're based. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprints.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today. Thanks for the invitation.
Happy to have you. So we first met in a women's business group called Women's Presidents Organization, which we've both moved on from since then.
Yes.
But it was a fortuitous meeting, and we've seen each other socially, I guess, a few times since then, and I've always been impressed by you and your work.
Thank you.
And we're actually filming today in one of your projects. So we're filming in Bezier House, which is located in Lawrence Park in Toronto. And tell us a little bit about the inspiration for this house, because it has a very unique curve.
Okay, so a Bezier curve is a parametric curve, which is used in graphic computer applications. But anyway, I'll just start from the beginning.
Okay.
So the client, the owner, contacted us. And at the time, he was living with his family in a much smaller house on the same site. Yeah. And the intent was to demolish the existing house, and because it was old and small, and to build a new house. So that was his requirement. And he said that there was an existing lap pool in the front yard of the house, which is really unusual and interesting. And
which we can see behind you.
yes, oh, wonderful.
Yes.
And so it's existing non-conforming, so we were allowed to keep the pool, which the City of Toronto no longer allows anyone to have a front yard pool. But the great part about it is that it faces south, and I think that's why the previous owners had put in this beautiful lap pool. But so I know Farhad and his family loved it and wanted to keep it, so that was one of the requirements, or the vision that Farhad had, was to build around this pool. And then another thing or goal that Farhad had was to not build a box. He wanted a sloped roof, so he literally Googled, or on his search engine, Architects Toronto sloped roof.
Oh, interesting.
And we popped up because previously we designed a house, like a few years prior, designed a house in King City with sloped roofs. It's very different than this house, but so I guess that came up. So he interviewed several architects and decided to work with our firm. So we were thrilled to work on this house. So the inspiration for the house, of course, was the lap pool.
Yeah.
And so we developed, and because the new program for the house was a much larger home, it was very restrictive in terms of the setbacks and then working around the pool. So that was challenging. So through the whole design process, we developed literally hundreds of concept designs.
Interesting.
Yeah, and sketches and parties, and every week we would, pin up all of these different variations of the massing, of the building massing, and we worked with Farhad and analyzed each one of them and came up with one that was an A-frame at the front.
Yeah.
And so because of the extra space required, the building became an L-shaped
Which I love.
building.
I love that it's not a flat front.
Yeah.
And I imagine Farhad would be a very unique client because he is a high-end luxury builder.
Yes, and developer.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he wanted this house to be a showpiece for his business. Yeah. And to be able to bring potential clients and to see what he's capable of, which is really beautiful construction and designs. So the front was an A-frame, and then what we did was as the building curved around the pool, the lap pool, it was a gentle sloping curve. Yeah. It was a double curve, the Bezier curve. And so it made for a really beautiful, elegant facade. And because the roof of the house is also the facade of the house, the materiality of the roof was really important. So.
And what is the material? Is it zinc?
Yes, so it's zinc, and they're hand laid, and a lot of them are hand cut because of the different curvatures as the curve moves. So yeah,
it's amazing.
And then we have this gutter that was built in, so it's invisible pretty much, and creates a nice edge condition along the eaves of the home or of the roof.
And when you walk by or drive by past projects, do you feel like this is part of my legacy? These are projects that will outlive me. Does that reside within you?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think as an architect, we always look at the things that, we should have done that, or that wasn't right.
We all do that as humans.
Right.
Yeah.
No, right.
Yeah. We're never happy with just anything.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's exciting to see your own work in the public realm.
Yeah,
For sure.
And when you think about what inspires you, what is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, wow, in architecture.
Yeah.
I think
Or design.
Designing,
what inspires
yeah.
your design or your ethos around architecture and design?
Right. I think it's the users themselves.
Yeah.
I find inspiring. So whether we're designing a house, it's the family. What do they like? What is their culture? How do they celebrate? Are they entertainers? Are they musicians? Photographers? So we try to be inspired by the users for each individual project. So when I was starting my practice, what was really important was public architecture. So, and those buildings require, they all have very distinct user groups, whether it's children or whether it's university students or whether it's, social housing and the more disadvantaged people. So all of those things I find extremely inspiring. Yeah.
Well, knowing that we both have a social relationship with this family, they are known to entertain, and this house feels like it was built to entertain, built to last. We've both been in this room with over 100 people, and the music going and the food, and it's just a great space for that.
Right.
So when you're starting with a client, do you interview them? Do you ask questions around lifestyle and how they'll use the space?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we try to get to know them and become friends with them, and so that we really get an understanding of what their goals are in life, what they love, how they live their lives.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the other inspiration that you and I have spoken about before is travel.
Yes.
So when you are traveling, are you actively looking for inspiration, or is it just sort of through osmosis that it's happening?
It's a bit of both,
Okay.
I think. So I guess my second big travel experience that was inspirational for me was a study abroad term in Florence, Italy, and that was through the University of Toronto architecture program. And that was incredible. And I find that educators in architecture are incredibly passionate about architecture. And it really, resonates in terms of, and they really do pass on that incredible passion and knowledge.
Well,
and
Florence seems like a pretty inspirational place
exactly.
to be. Yeah.
And we traveled every weekend to different parts of Italy. And
Sounds
we worked with a historian, a professor who taught us, and another one from New York. And they just knew so much about these buildings and the art inside of the buildings and the built form and the political and cultural aspects of why that building was there, about mass and form and the trends of the time. So it was just all encompassing. So I found that really incredible, and it still is with me today.
And it must inform, like we live in a city that I would say is pretty broken from a functionality perspective, from a user perspective. Do you have a strong view on urban planning as an architect, or do you have, where do you think Toronto's headed? Maybe that's the right question.
That's a tough one.
And you're allowed to be negative. You don't have to be all
Oh, yes.
sunshine
I
and
like
rainbows.
Yeah. Well, I just started an Instagram feed, and it's called Civic Pride Toronto. And I've just started it, and I photograph horrible parts or pieces or places in Toronto. I think we have a huge lack of disrespect for the city. Or lack of respect for the city, and in terms of just simple things like how we deal with our garbage. And so, in my neighborhood where there's a lot of, it's quite densified. And so, owners are renting more of their houses more and more. And plus we're consuming more. So garbage is a huge problem. And they're just lined up all week long along the sidewalk. Anyway,
I call that
take
trashification.
Right, exactly. There's
Which
that.
I borrowed from Jerry Seinfeld. That's not my own term. Anyway.
But also just construction sites and the lack of beautiful hoarding. Like hoarding could be an experience, where it's for a place for artists to speak and or graffiti artists, whatever. But just having chain link fences where dust blows all over the place, and it's just pretty ugly. And I feel like there's no passion about having a beautiful city. I mean, we were in Mexico City, and the construction sites are beautiful. Like they have tall hoarding, and it's really well done.
I think that what you said, a lack of respect for our city, is so interesting, because I think that people, I don't want to be critical. I do love Toronto, and I love the people in Toronto, but I think that we're all so busy that we don't pause to think about what can we do to make it better. We just get through our days. But if we could all take a little bit of time each day and do that, maybe it would change the way it looks and feels.
Right.
And I think you're right. Consumerism is such a disease that we face. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but it would be nice if there was one.
And I think also just the whole attitude where money is the be all and end all and the bottom line. I think we need a new, more empathetic capitalism where, it's not just about that, but it's about people.
People,
And the public realm, and making beautiful spaces and places and a great experience for everybody. And I think that's lacking. There's not a lot of leadership towards that, which is unfortunate. So
it's not a popular subject.
No.
So you've introduced the subject of capitalism. So you are naturally a creative, I would think. You are an architect and you design beautiful structures, but you also run a massive business. So do you have a business background as well, or does that come to you naturally? Like how do you balance your creative side and your business side?
Yeah. So my business is not massive, but
well, very successful.
But it has grown.
The way that I would picture it.
Thank you. So for many years, I've always loved business.
Yeah.
And I joined the Strategic Coach. I don't know if you're familiar with it, with Dan Sullivan. So I was part of that for many years, and that was like an MBA in a way.
Yeah.
But that was very focused on, for each individual was focused on our own businesses. So that was amazing. And I was part of Dan's group, like his higher level group, for a long time as well. So I learned a lot from that.
Amazing.
And that was really helpful. So, yeah.
And those types of organizations, I mean, we're sitting here because we were both in a group like that. I think they form really interesting relationships, not necessarily with a business benefit, but just amplification of ideas and sharing of knowledge, which is so beneficial. So one of the questions I often get asked when I go into a room is, how do you balance business, being a mom, having fun? How do you balance it all? Right. And the question itself doesn't offend me in any way, but I am kind of bothered that men never get asked that question. How do you feel about it when you are asked questions like that?
Right. I don't get too bothered, but I do think that generally speaking, if we can speak generally, is that women do seem to take on more of a role. And it's the little things that take up a lot of time, like play dates and shopping for clothing and dental appointments, et cetera, right? Signing up for extracurricular activities, that sort of thing.
720 emails from the school every week.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, my husband's really great and does help out a lot, but it's those small things that do add up. Yeah. Anyway, my kids are in university now, so I don't have to worry about that anymore.
How many kids do you have?
Two.
Yeah. And they're both in university. Are either of them studying architecture?
One is my succession plan.
There you go.
But he's only in second year, so he's got a long way to go.
And where did he choose?
Second year of undergrad. He's at Carleton.
At Carleton. My daughter's boyfriend is interested in architecture. His father is an architect as well. And he was accepted into the U of T architecture program, which I think is amazing. I think he's deciding to go to Dalhousie to do an undergrad in business and then transfer to architecture.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about. It's a small world.
Very small world. Are the initials IF?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, there you go. So he's not alone in his pursuits.
No.
No. And my dad is now 83, and he studied urban planning, which is where he met my mom, was in urban planning at the School of Architecture at U of T.
What? Oh, fantastic.
So it used to be, and neither of them really worked in urban planning, but their first gig out of university, So it was a class of like 30 people, but of those 30, only 2 were women. It was, it was a post-grad.
And your mom was one of them.
My mom was one of them.
I did not know this about you. Wow.
And my dad walked into the class with his best friend, and there was these 2 girls there, and he looked at his buddy and said, well, I'm marrying that one. And they were married within 9 months or something.
Wow.
But my dad tells this very funny story of they had to do a plan, like a massing of the School of Architecture at U of T. And my mom and her friend went out with a ruler and started measuring the outside of the building. And my dad and his buddy just walked down to City Hall and got the plans that had all the measurements. Anyway, so my family has ties to urban planning and
amazing.
sort of the ideas behind it, but neither of them worked in it, and both were extremely frustrated by the City of Toronto's planning.
Okay.
In their latter years. Do you think that Toronto will be a drivable city in 10 years? I'm not sure it is today, but do you think it will be a drivable city in 10 years when we have condo projects with hundreds and thousands of units, but only tens of dozens of parking spots?
I think the city's working hard to find alternatives.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
so,
flying cars or?
No, but public transit. They've done a lot for cycling and cyclists, making it safer and more available. So
That's
I'm hoping
great in the summer, not so great in
No,
February.
exactly. But our winters are becoming more and more mild, but not that that's a good thing, but it does help with cycling. And I hope that, if there's alternative energy, that's usable, and hopefully that becomes more normal.
Do you study sustainability as part of your practice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's always changing and always evolving. And so we're working on a net zero project right now with MJMA Architects. So that's really fascinating. And I'm lead accredited professional, and we have some lead accredited people at the office as well on our team.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And is that driven by you or driven by clients? When someone says, I want a sustainable project, are you influencing the client, or is the client asking for it?
It typically comes from us, but there are clients who are very much into sustainability, like the University of Toronto, City of Toronto, the municipalities, even City of Hamilton, are doing a lot for that now. It's taken a long time because it does cost more, and it is a little bit political. So I think it's changing rapidly, and we're seeing it more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say it costs more, is that the upfront cost, or like the total cost if you've spread it out over 10 years? Like, does solar pay for itself if you
It does. There are
amortize
life
it?
cycle costs and audits and analysis that needs to be done to get the accreditation or the certification that it is net zero or it is LEED. Okay. So, yeah.
And if you were to look at your career, maybe this is an awkward question because your clients will be listening or watching. What is the project you are most proud of in your career?
Oh, well, this would definitely be one of them.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and another house that we did in King City. And there are some public projects. We designed a youth center at a community center for the City of Toronto a long time ago, and it's one of my favorite projects, public projects.
Yeah.
Just because it uses very simple industrial materials, but it's bright, it's open, and it's warm at the same time.
Where is it? Can you share where it is?
It's in Scarborough. It's at the McGregor Community Center.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice legacy too. You know, to have these buildings.
It is. And our project at OCAD University is important.
Yes.
So a lot of that is based on, how, like the patterning is based on how artists move through the city.
Okay.
And yeah,
Nice.
those are some of them.
And let's move to your personal life because that's always fun. So you're married. How long have you been married for?
25 years this year.
Wow.
And our company's 25 years as well.
Oh, it's a
There was a
big
lot
one.
going on in 1999.
Yeah. Heaps Estrin is 25 years this year too.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I started in, can I actually reveal my age? I started in real estate 25 years ago.
Okay, nice.
Which is really
When you were
difficult
15.
to believe because I feel like I was 3 years old 25 years ago, but that's okay.
Sorry, I
so we
said
started at the
15, but
same
you were
time.
3.
Yeah, I'm going for 3. So we started at the same time. So
4.
you met, and what's your husband's name?
Tony,
Tony. So you met
Yeah.
Tony 25 years, no, you must have met him
27.
27
Yeah.
years ago. And how did you meet him? Can I ask that?
We met at a party
Okay.
of a mutual friend.
Good
Yeah.
old fashioned way. Yep.
Yeah. It was,
And got married 2 years later. And how old are your children?
22 and 20.
Oh, nice. And
Yeah.
you have a son who's studying architecture, and your
My
other
daughter
You have a daughter, okay.
22. Yeah.
And she's studying.
She's studying sociology.
Okay.
Yeah. So she
to
doesn't know
change
what
the
she
world.
wants to do. She'll take a year off, travel to Europe, and she wants to teach English there.
Great.
And then do a master's in something.
Isn't it
She's not
fun
sure yet.
to watch our kids adult?
Pardon me?
It's fun to watch your
Oh,
kids
yes.
adult. Like
It's
the decisions they
exciting.
make, and yeah.
Yep.
And does Tony work in the world of archecture, or is he
No.
completely separate?
So fortunately, he's not.
Okay, yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
No, but he has his own company in digital production. So they do websites and conference sites and those sorts of things.
Did he do
Yeah.
your website?
He did.
Okay, good.
Actually, a new one's in progress.
And do you enjoy working together? Or do you just let him run with it?
No, usually someone else in my office works with him. Otherwise, yeah,
That's better,
no,
yeah.
we wouldn't work well together for that.
I did work with my ex-husband for a very short minute.
Right.
I don't really recommend it. I don't
No.
think it's a great. You noticed I said ex-husband.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really highly recommend
I'm sorry.
it. No, it's good.
I hope that minute wasn't the culprit.
No, well, it might have been. It was part of it, a contributing factor anyway. And when you look to the future, what are you excited about for your career, for your family, for, just in general? What is it that keeps you motivated?
I love the future. I'm the type of person who always looks in the future.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
not very present,
Yeah.
which can be problematic. But what excites me, so growing my
Yeah.
firm really excites me.
How big are you now?
We're only 12 people,
Okay.
but we're working on that. And we have a plan, a growth plan. And I'm vegan.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about that and seeing the world change based on how we treat animals. So I'm vegan for animal rights primarily, and it's great that sustainability, it's helpful as well.
Yeah.
So that has been I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah.
I think I have post-traumatic stress disorder from learning all of the things that I know
About
that go
animals.
on every minute of the day in all these agricultural farms. And it's so crazy that we cut down huge swaths of forest
To feed ourselves.
to create these agricultural farms
Yeah.
of animal for livestock, and then we cut down more forests to grow to feed them instead of just going from the feed to us,
Yes. Yeah.
right? I mean, it's a huge shortcut. I mean, anyway, so
It's a very digestible way to think about it, is the way you just presented it. I don't mean that I accept it. I just mean it's
Right.
logically, you're right, it doesn't make
Right.
sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And sustainably, we're doing some research now on what animal products are in building materials.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we are looking at not specifying those products
Yeah.
and making sure that we're not part of that world.
That's so interesting. I was a vegetarian for 15 years.
Oh, nice.
From the time I was 9 until I was 24. And I really did enjoy it, but my body really didn't enjoy it.
Oh,
Yeah. My doctor eventually said you need to start eating
right.
meat again. But I'm tempted almost every day to go back to being a vegetarian.
If you watch, it's called Watch Dominion. Like if you
Okay.
go to watchdominion.com,
Yeah.
there's some really great information on there,
Oh,
which
really?
could help you get back to where you were.
Yeah,
and then some.
watchdominion.com. Okay, I'll do that. And what else excites you about the future? So, your growth, when you say you want to grow your business, in terms of projects or people or both?
In terms of scales of projects,
Okay.
yeah.
What's
And
your dream
profitability.
project?
Well, so when we started, we were doing tiny little, because I was very focused on public architecture,
Yeah.
we did get some projects that were very small. I mean, the first year on my own, I made $10,000.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah.
That was a pivotal moment. It's like, okay, that's not very
You're like,
sustainable.
oh, shit. Now what do I do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just slowly, organically, we built up a portfolio that got bigger and bigger. And, our first project maybe was $300,000 in construction costs. And then the next one was, maybe $350,000. So over the year, but now we're up to like $35 million in construction costs. And what's
Those are
really
big
exciting
projects.
is that we were awarded 3 brand new schools. One is in downtown Toronto, and it's a mixed use project and a proposed 8-story building, which is really super
wow.
exciting. Yeah. So we're happy with that.
That model I find interesting. They've done it here at North
Yes.
Toronto Collegiate, where the first 2 floors are a high school, and then the rest is condominiums.
Right.
But it's a really interesting way to fund structure,
Right.
city infrastructure.
Exactly.
And is that
Yeah.
what the model is in the schools that you're doing? Is it condominiums or rental buildings above, or?
It's actually non-residential.
Oh, okay.
But it's affiliated with, it's for programming that's affiliated with the schools or agencies and community use affiliated.
Okay.
So there's some office space, there's some community space, and then the school itself. This is with the French board, one of the French boards.
And what do you think of the Regent Park project? That sort of transformation that the city.
Oh, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's
I
really
love it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of future for your family, do you have any big travel plan? Do you still travel with your kids in university?
We do.
Yeah.
We went to Naples, Italy last year, which is really cool. A lot of Italians don't appreciate Naples.
Napoleon?
But
Is that how they say
I
it?
loved it. It
Napoleon?
was
Yeah.
incredible. And then we went to the Amalfi Coast and Pompeii in that area. So my mother asked me to take her to her hometown in Italy,
Which is
in Abruzzo.
Okay.
My father's from Veneto, from Castelfranco, Veneto. But anyway, so my daughter and I are going to take my mother there. So we'll spend 5 days in Rome as well. Yeah, so that'll be fun.
I love Italy. Is that your go-to destination?
Not necessarily.
No.
No, you try to.
Have you ever
Widen
been
that.
to Kenya by chance?
No, sounds
It's the most amazing
amazing.
place in the world.
Yeah.
If I could spend 2 months there a year, I probably would. Well, maybe
So
not
have you
2
been
months,
there?
maybe 4 weeks. Yes, I took my
Oh,
kids.
you have. Oh,
My parents went. I guess I don't even remember if I had kids yet when they went. But my mom, she was diagnosed with a terminal illness when my twins were born.
oh gosh.
And she always said, you have to take the kids before they're too old. So she died in...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you. 2019, which means my youngest were 9 years old.
Wow.
And I got divorced in 2020, and I took the 3 kids as our sort of post-COVID trip for 3 weeks in 2020.
Nice.
It was magical.
Wow.
It is the most... I don't even know how to describe it. You look around and you think nothing else exists beyond this.
Were you in a safari or on a safari?
Yeah, we did a few
Okay.
different things. So we did a safari in the Masamara. And then we stayed at pretty nice, like mini, I don't know, guest houses, hotels. Spectacular. And flew tiny little planes and helicopters to see the landscape that you can't get to otherwise. And yeah,
Wow.
it was magical. I highly recommend it.
How long were you there for?
3 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Wow, I'm sure
It
you
was
needed
really
that
great.
break.
I did.
After all that stuff,
But it
right? Your
also
mom and your
connects you
husband.
to the world. Like it reconnected me to. There's just an awareness that there's so much more out
Right.
there than us.
Right.
And I think that's a really difficult mindset in Toronto. When we started this, I was saying I think people are so focused on self right now. I don't know if it's a result of COVID. I don't know if it's a result of capitalism. I really don't know what it is, but I agree with you. There has to be a return to people as a priority.
Right.
And connection. Human connection is what feeds me. It's what I do all day long, and it's what
Right.
I enjoy. But yeah, I hope that our kids can feel that. I feel like kids these days are so connected to phone as opposed to people.
Right. But there are people on the other end. You just hope they're good people.
You hope so.
Right.
And are they real people? Like if they're
Right.
scrolling, are those people, or are they
Exactly.
just moments of wanting to emulate them and they're not
Right.
even
Right. No, that's scary.
interacting with them?
Yeah.
My son, who's 13, is moving to Hawaii in less than 2 months.
Wow.
I
For
know.
the summer.
Forever. Well, for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I know he's studying. He's a very active scuba diver, and he's moving there to study the ocean, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's how old? 13?
He'll be 14 when he leaves
Oh, so for high school.
for high school.
Wow, that's
I know.
incredible that he knows what he wants to do.
Isn't it?
Wow,
I
fascinating.
mean, when I think back to when I was 14, I think I was really up to no good. I definitely wasn't studying the ocean. But what I'm excited about is at the school. It's easier, I think, for the school. Excuse me. It's easier for the school to say to him, "No phones. You're living here. It's under our rules," as opposed to me saying
Right.
it.
They'll
And
listen to other people.
And then when he's mad at me, he goes, "Cailey." I'm no longer mom. I'm just Cailey. So I'm interested to
great.
see if living in boarding school creates a stronger connection between people
Right.
than being at home, going to a day school, being
Right.
on devices. Not that I'm using him as an experiment, but it will be a bit of an experiment.
So
His twin sister,
Yes.
who is obviously female but otherwise the same life experience,
Right.
will be staying at home and going to public school in Toronto.
Okay.
So it's like this perfect little science project.
Right.
Not if they're listening, not that I think of them as a science project, but
Sure.
anyway, I do worry about phones. I regret giving my kids phones when I did, if I could go back in time. And I always say the most successful person in the room is the person who's not on their phone.
Right. Because they're not wasting time.
Yeah.
They're building their company, or they're
living an
they're living
exceptional
their
life.
dreams, or they're
Yeah.
exactly. They're more focused on the task at hand in their own life, and they're more present.
Yeah. If you could choose one word to describe an ideal life, just one word, what is it?
Empathy.
Oh, interesting. That's a good word.
I was going to say happiness, but it's too obvious. Of course, it's important to be happy, but I think empathy creates happiness.
Yeah. I was asked this question yesterday, and
And what was your?
my first answer was love.
Oh, yeah.
My second answer was joy.
Oh, I like those.
I think it's love, though. And by love, I don't necessarily mean romantic love. I
Right.
mean feeling and giving love.
Right. Which is pretty empathetic.
Maybe I'm saying that because I'm an unmarried female in my 20s. Not quite. But I think, I don't know. It's a question. I don't think there's a right answer. I think it's different for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in our group that we were in, which was a female-based business
Yes.
group, you and I both departed because there wasn't as much business content as we had hoped for. Do you think that is driven by the fact that it was a female group, or do you think it was driven by a time in our lives, COVID, or just pre-COVID, post-COVID? I don't even remember. Was it pre or post-COVID?
It was pre for me.
Okay, so then never mind. My question is deleted now.
Why is it deleted? Oh, about the
I was going to
COVID.
say, was it driven by needing connection post-COVID?
That's a really good question, though. I think it is sort of a woman way of connecting.
Through emotion.
You know, like a guy
And
might go
either-
play golf or go to a bar.
Yeah.
And women will maybe share discussions about their personal life.
Yeah. Although,
Maybe, I don't know. Is that generally that's generally
but
speaking?
both
But
you and I would
Right.
say are different than that, which is why we left.
right.
We both wanted the business content, the business
Right.
conversation, the
Yes.
external board of directors.
Yeah.
Have you replaced that group with anything else?
I haven't, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah. I do read a lot, though.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the 5 a.m. Club right now by Robin Sharma, I think his name is.
And
Anyway, it's all about, I just started it, but it's all about waking up at 5 a.m. and the benefits of it.
And have you tried waking up at 5 a.m.?
No.
No? They haven't convinced
But
you
I think
yet.
the key is to go to bed early, which really helps with my eating patterns.
Yes. Yeah, I know it does.
So maybe
I'll
I'll lose 20 pounds when I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I mean, that's a double bonus.
Double bonus. You look great though. I'm a 6:30 a.m. start day
nice.
type person, but I
Yeah.
don't go to bed until late, like 12 or so.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't require a ton of sleep. I have a lot
Right.
of energy.
Oh,
and
good.
yes, yeah.
You get more hours to work.
Yes.
Bonus.
More hours to work. Isn't that just what I want to do?
Oh,
Although I
boy.
did, as a female entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, female or otherwise, I think that we do just fundamentally work a lot. I always say, and our success, my success,
Yeah.
is not necessarily because I'm smarter than the people I'm surrounded by, because that's
Right.
not true. I just work really hard. I put the hours in. It's that
Yeah.
simple, I think.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, you have to be intelligent and you have to be nimble and whatever, but you have to put the hours in. There's
Absolutely.
no secret sauce.
Right, absolutely. And I find that young people today sound
Yes,
like my
I'm listening.
father.
Yeah.
Or there's something they feel like, I don't know. I wish I could be in their minds, but I get the sense that there's a negative connotation with working hard.
Oh.
And they want things, maybe they want things for free, or they don't want to work so hard. And I think that's really unfortunate, because you have to work hard to get what you want in life, and to, find something that's interesting, and if we can help the world be a better place, then, maybe find something like that.
Yeah. I think,
But
so I have often said that and thought that, but then I pause and I think, me telling other people what they want in life. And I
Right.
think that generation doesn't want what we want. They want balance.
Right. Yeah.
They want joy. They don't want pressure or stress. Most of them don't want kids. A lot of them don't want home ownership because it's added pressure.
It's out of their
They want to exist. But the question is, are you leaving the world a better place? What are you contributing to society?
right.
And who's paying your bills?
Right. No, exactly.
You have to work there has to be some amount of work to
Right.
pay the bills.
Yeah.
But I do think, so I think homeownership in Canada is changing. There's a lot of literature around it. I think that our notion of homeownership being sort of an essential part of adulting is now shifting, where people will just say, what's my housing allowance? Like, what can I afford on a monthly
Right.
basis? And does that mean I'm renting or does that mean I'm buying? And if it's renting, there's mindset is there's nothing wrong with that. There's so many different cultures living in Canada now that come from rental-based societies.
Right.
And I really think that's the future of a huge amount of our population, which then we start looking at housing inventory and do we have enough doors to support people?
Right.
And for those people who are wanting to capitalize on it, they should be buying every multifamily building in Toronto.
Right.
But yeah, I think about with my kids, will home ownership even be a priority for them? Or will they be nomadic? Will that generation just work all over the world?
Right.
Which sounds pretty great, actually.
It does.
Both you and I. You can travel with work. You do projects outside of Canada, presumably.
We have in the past, but not recently. Yeah.
And if you could choose a destination for a project, like if you could say, my dream project is in
Oh, that's a tough one. But somewhere in Europe, maybe London.
London, okay.
But we did have a
Let's
project in the
manifest it.
Cayman Islands, so that was
Oh,
not
that's
bad at all. That was pretty
is
amazing.
fun. And what was the project? Single family?
No, it was an office space within a mixed-use complex
Wow.
in Camana Bay, which was a really fantastic project that we worked on.
That's
Great
fun.
client, yeah. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
We just introduced Heaps Estrin Global at the beginning of this year.
Amazing.
So it's a
Wow,
global real estate platform.
congratulations.
Thank you. And the reason I did it is I love travel. It's probably my biggest passion outside of friends and family. But it allows me to travel for work. And we're excited. We have projects all over the place now. But I think about sometimes if I wasn't based in Toronto, where would I want to be based?
And where would
the
that
answer
be?
is Europe. Somewhere in
Oh,
Europe.
okay.
I don't know exactly where, but somewhere in Europe.
Right.
So I think the beautiful thing about Europe is you can travel
Yes.
for a weekend to Paris, to Rome, to
Right.
Istanbul,
London,
wherever. But we don't really have that in Canada. Like for us to travel to Vancouver for a weekend is 2 full days of travel
For sure.
to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And also the cost of traveling in North America is so much higher than Europe.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I was just there and I got a flight for $28 from France to Spain.
Not Ryanair.
No, it was something,
Okay.
I don't even know the name of it actually.
For
started-
$27?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. We can't do that here.
No.
Can't even get to the airport for $27.
No, exactly. Good point.
So we are near wrapping up. If you had any words of wisdom for future architects, women in business, your children, what would you want to impart on them?
Wow, that's a tough one. Persevere. There have been many moments in my life where I tried and failed and tried and failed, and then finally it worked. So that would be my number one thing. Persevere,
good.
work hard,
Yeah.
love what you do.
Yeah, have fun along the way.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's good.
That is
advice.
fun.
That is fun. Yeah. Well, that feeling of accomplishment when you've pushed
Right.
through is such a great feeling. Good. Well,
Definitely.
thank you for being on the show
you,
today,
Cailey.
and
It was
I'll look
fun.
forward to seeing your next international project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.